So this is with regard to the roundtable on Antifa, which I believe I'm going with the title of this video on. And this is the entire discussion. I think it went over an hour, didn't it?
Probably.
Yeah, it went an hour and 15 minutes. I might just play just a minute or two of his opener, but I've got other clips. I got highlights. I got Kash Patel, Secretary Kristi Noem, and there's some other officials who showed up at the roundtable. So I got quite a few to go through. So, yeah, I figured I'll just play a minute or so of this, but I'm going to repost this right now if you want to check it out on my X account. It's at SPAETHO, or SPAETHON. There's an end at the end. That's my YouTube name. My YouTube name is Spatho, and on my X account, it's Spathon. That's my actual name, but anyway, long story short, that's where you can check it out, or you could just go straight to the White House, at White House. It'll be on there as well. So let's give this a watch. Just for a couple of minutes here.
On Sunday, maybe Saturday, maybe a little later than Saturday evening, but that seems to be our schedule. It should be clear to all Americans that we have a very serious left-wing terror threat in our country. Radicals associated with the domestic terror group Antifa that you've heard a lot about lately.
Not just Antifa, though.
I've heard a lot about them for 10 years.
They're just the ones that have been identified.
Other far-left extremists have been carrying out a campaign
of these
violence
radicals, they don't have a name other than Democrat.
Charged with enforcing federal law. In Chicago, anarchists
let's be real, man.
have surveilled
that is what the Democrats are becoming.
At least 4
they are getting
local
extreme.
ICE facilities and posted diagrams
Celebrating
of the buildings
assassinations? Are you
online,
fucking kidding me?
meaning nothing but bad, accompanied by photos of specific ICE agents that they're targeting, one in particular who's a top person and a great patriot. In July, approximately a dozen Antifa-aligned militants stormed the ICE facility in Texas and then lured officers out of the building before firing dozens of rounds at police. They were crazy, frankly, shooting one Texas officer in the neck. And in Portland, Oregon, Antifa thugs have repeatedly attacked our officers and laid siege to federal property in an attempt to violently stop the execution of federal law. Everything we're doing is very lawful. What they're doing is not lawful. And what the governor and the mayor of, as an example, you could say
they try to hide behind the First Amendment.
Certainly of Chicago, it's not lawful what they're doing. They have to be very careful. In addition, 2 weeks ago, radical left terrorists in Dallas conducted a sniper attack on a local ICE facility, killing 2 people and leaving behind a note that read, "Hopefully this will give ICE agents some real terror."
Fucking governor.
That's bad. This attack came the very same month that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a far-left extremist who inscribed the words, "Hey fascists, catch," meaning catch the bullet, onto the bullet shelf itself. The epidemic of left-wing violence and Antifa-inspired terror has been escalating for nearly a decade. At universities, Antifa has organized riotous mobs to attack campus speakers. I see it all the time. And these are agitators, anarchists.
Terrorists.
And they're paid.
They're terrorists.
And you'll find that out. You'll be finding it out very soon.
And they're international terrorists.
These people. These are bad people. These are people.
Honestly, I'm surprised that a judge hasn't blocked this yet. Didn't he officially? He signed an executive order declaring them domestic terrorists, I believe. And that was, what, a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago when he signed that executive order. Surprised that a judge hasn't come out and tried to overturn that yet because of First Amendment reasons. I remember reading about that. Before he even signed the executive order, there were claims that a judge was going to come out and try to put a stop to that. And that's why I was saying Trump should just declare them an international terrorist organization, because that would give the government even more broad powers to go after them, because Antifa did not start in the United States. Antifa doesn't only exist in the United States today. It exists in several countries around the world. And it started in Germany, like back in the 1930s. And it became more prominent. Well, I don't know about more prominent, but it really got its start in the U.S. back in the 1980s. And it's just been moving on up from there. I just think that's really the angle they should take. But maybe he's starting here, and that might be on Trump's battle plans. Maybe he always seems to be at least a few steps ahead of everybody else. So.
People that want to destroy our country, we're not going to let it happen. They've used armed gangs to assault local police in cities nationwide, and they've attacked journalists reporting on their crimes. So the journalists that report on their crimes, don't worry, you're very safe. I hope that's not going to turn you around, but they have been very threatening to people, but we're going to be very threatening to them, far more threatening to them than they ever were with us, and that includes the people that fund them. Probably some of the people I know, some of the people I dine with.
Probably.
But if they do, they're in deep trouble. So we're going to be looking very strongly at the people that are funding these operations. When you see the signs, and they're all made out of a beautiful, beautiful paper, beautiful, nice, stiff, very expensive paper with beautiful wood handles, all the same color. They come from very expensive printing machines. These are not people that write out their signs in a basement that believe in something. These are paid anarchists. At least three of these courageous journalists have personally been victims of Antifa attacks. And
you know what's interesting is when they look into that, which hopefully they'll do quickly, because I could see that dragging on for years. Once they look into the inner workings of Antifa, financially speaking, that's probably going to very easily connect them with just organizations all over the left, all over the far left, very deeply entrenched in with the Democratic Party. I bet it's going to extend into everything on the left. I'm sure it will.
Has been repeatedly beaten by Antifa thugs for his work in Andy is a very serious person, too, I have to tell you. I've been watching him for a long time. Is Andy here? That's what I thought. Hello, Andy. I thought that was you. You're looking better than you do out on those streets, huh?
Andy, no, right?
You look much better. It's nice to have you. You feel a little safer here, I think, maybe. Well, not that safe, because you have them. You have to worry about that. But thank you very much. Andy No has been repeatedly beaten by
that is Andy No.
Including
I believe that's
one
him right
assault
there.
that left him with a brain hemorrhage. Only days ago, Nick Sortor was assaulted in Portland by
Andy
a
No, they've beat the shit out of him,
burning
too.
mob, and we've made it 1 year penalty for inciting riots. We took the
you want to get your learn on about Antifa, go to Andy No. Andy NGO on X. He's constantly reporting on Antifa.
What has happened is when they burn a flag, it agitates and irritates crowds. They've never seen anything like it on both sides. And
dude, I am so glad that President Trump invited Andy No to this table. If there's anybody that should be at the table with regard to Antifa, it's Andy No.
But never passed the courts.
Matter of fact, he was the one who I read initially who mentioned that they're not a domestic terrorist organization. They're an international terrorist organization, and that's really where they should be classifying it. So for him to be in the room during this roundtable, that's extremely important.
This is what they do, is they incite, when you burn an American flag, you incite tremendous violence. We have many examples of it, many examples of it, and it's actually down on tape, and you see things happen that just don't happen unless it's the flag that's burning. Very recently, Katie Davis Court was hit in the face with a flagpole in Portland by an Antifa radical, leaving her with a very blackened eye. So, Katie, thank you very much, and I'd like to
actually on this show, I actually played a video with her talking with someone about it.
Nick,
had a big, nasty black eye.
That was a rough time you went through. I hope you got my little note. I wrote you a note.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. It helped a lot because it was a
microphone. Oh, Jack Posobiec, he's there. There's Jack Posobiec.
I thought it was terrible, actually. I thought it was terrible. So we'll talk about it a little bit. Under the last administration, the Department of Justice targeted faithful Catholics, Christians, and patriotic parents as domestic extremists. They said, oh, they're extreme because they believe in God. They're extreme because they go to Catholic church, or evangelicals, where everybody was under the gun. Unless you are a really bad, sick person, then they left you alone. Under the Trump administration, we're going after Antifa criminals, and all who fund and support their campaigns are in serious trouble. And we have a lot of records already, a lot of surprises, a lot of bad surprises. It's people that you would never think.
Another thing that Andy No is going to be invaluable with, because I bet he's gotten to the bottom of a lot of this, too.
Congress.
As far as the financials.
Amazing, and she just did it from the heart. And the brain, because she's very smart, in all fairness. But she did it from the heart, and she did it an incredible. Everybody was talking about it. She exposed some of these fake senators, these terrible senators, people like Blumenthal that had a phony war record. For 20 years, he talked about what a hero he was, and it turned out he never went to Vietnam.
Ha.
For 20 years, he talked about being a hero in Vietnam. Then it was exposed when he said
Stolen
what
valor.
platoon he was with, and it was exposed that somebody was watching from that particular platoon. They said he was never with us. And then he went out and he cried, and he was ready to drop out of the election. And disgraceful. And then he looks at people like Pam and he starts criticizing her, and she's a patriot. And they ought to do something with that. You know, we have a young congressman that's right now in jail for lying about where he went to college and other things. It was, you know, frankly not good. It was pretty bad. But it was nothing compared to Blumenthal. I mean, what Blumenthal did, he was for 20 years a hero, a great war hero. And then he sits back and, you know, sanctimonious kind of a guy, looks down, how dare you do this to the American public, you know? What a fake. But I thought Pam was incredible yesterday, as well as Secretary Kristi Noem, who's really out there courageously, and I appreciate it, Kristi. Amazing what you're doing.
Yeah, she's just in Portland
Director Kash
yesterday
Patel,
or day
who's
before.
Really coming up with some great information.
Went out to
Kash.
Chicago
It's
last
great.
week.
Keep it coming, because there's plenty of it. Deputy Attorney General, one of the best lawyers you'll ever find. Todd Blanche.
All right, anyway, so I'll just go ahead and play the highlights. He's introducing everyone. That's probably going to take 15 minutes by itself. So, again, I reposted if you want to check it out over on the X platform. So this comes from Rapid Response 47. Most of them will be either from the White House or Rapid Response. So this one is going to be FBI Director Kash Patel delivers remarks on Antifa. So let's hear Kash Patel's
Mr. President,
take on it.
the American people gave you a sweeping mandate in your victory in this election cycle, and they demanded safety and security for our citizens. And your administration, with your leadership, has provided us with the resources that we need, which is a whole-of-government approach to go after criminals absolutely everywhere, not just outside of this country, but within this country. And that takes
Especially
a
in the
whole-of-government
country.
approach. The interagency seated up here with the Department of Homeland Security, our Attorney General, our Deputy Attorney General, and your White House staffers, including Stephen Miller's leadership, has allowed us to go out there and map out these networks. What we are doing at the FBI is simple. It does not require rocket science. We are following the money.
Yes.
Money never lies.
Yes.
And that's what it's going to
Follow
take
the
to
fucking
bring down
money.
this network of organized criminal thugs, gangbangers, and yes, domestic terrorists, because that's what they
Absolutely.
are. They are harming.
You know, it's funny. They use apps like Signal and shit like that to try to stay covert, try to stay under the radar, try to communicate, so that way the feds can be knowledgeable as to what they're up to. But I bet that they're not as good at it as they think they are, especially when you have the tools that the federal government wield, especially with the intelligence community. Not so sure if they're going to stay steps ahead of the government on this one. This is going to be amazing, man.
Everyday
This is gonna be crazy to see
citizens
what
in every
happens.
single one of our communities. And the folks you see here on the right and left, they're some of the bravest men and women we have today. They're reporting the stories live time because the mainstream media won't cover it. They're
No, of
putting
course
their
they
lives
won't.
on the line. They're standing up for the flag.
protect
The least we
Antifa.
can do is stand up for them. So
Go back
you
to
have my
2020.
thanks.
Watch that
I
shit.
read more of your stories than I do theirs because you guys are putting out the truth. And we deserve a country where you are protected as equally as they are.
And you know, like Antifa, every time that you go down and where Antifa is, and if you even if you're not a journalist, if you're just some everyday, just regular ass person with a phone, and you're walking around with your phone just live streaming or recording, or if you're just some like nobody YouTuber or something, Antifa will attack you if you start pointing your camera at them because they don't want to be on film at all because they don't want the public to see what they're doing.
We in this FBI will go after with the criminals with a vengeance. We will not rest until we find every single seed, money, donor, organization, and funding mechanism that we have. And I want to echo the Secretary's
that's gonna
comments
stretch
on
all over the place, man.
Scott Bessent, who's allowing us to map out these networks through their financial criminal activities, which has been going on for decades. And I would like to remind the American public, they built this disease temple of corruption over decades.
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
in 8 short
Absolutely.
months, Mr. President, you have crippled their foundation because of
Probably
your
going back to
leadership
the
here,
60s.
because of the
Antifa,
interagency,
back
because of
to
people
the
like
80s.
Deputy Attorney General Blanche, and because of Attorney General Pam Bondi's fearless leadership to go after criminals wherever they are. They will not be able to hide. They were able to hide and conspire with prior administrations, and we are exposing their corruption from within. And we will go to every single city in this country under Operation Summer Heat and the other operations we are doing at the FBI to bring these criminals to justice. We will arrest every single one of them from whatever perch you sit in, private or public, no matter how your goal or your ambition is. It will be crushed by the Constitution because the
Good.
American people deserve law and order, and that's what we're going to give you.
And I bet Pamela Bondi, I bet she better do the job that she needs to be doing too. Don't stonewall anything. Don't delay anything as fast as possible. Because look, time is ticking. I mean, 2028 is no guarantee. Hell, even 2026 is no guarantee. It's looking pretty good as far as Republicans encroaching more power in Congress, although we just don't know what the future is going to look like. We have no idea. So I hope they go after this as quickly as humanly possible because, look, I know we all want J.D. Vance to win 2028. There's a pretty good possibility that may be the outcome. And if that's the case, then they can keep rolling on with the investigations and the trials and all that stuff. But, I mean, I just hope that they're acting with a strong sense of urgency. So this is from the White House. President Donald J. Trump hosts a roundtable on Antifa. So this might be him just during the opening remarks.
The epidemic of left-wing violence and Antifa-inspired terror has been escalating for...
Okay, yeah, it is. I believe we already saw that, so I'm just going to go to the next one, rapid response. And it's a quote from Trump, probably the same
It should be clear
opening.
to all Americans that we have a very serious left-wing terror threat in our country. Radicals associated with the domestic terror group Antifa that you've heard a lot about lately, and I've heard a lot about them for 10 years. And other far-left extremists have been carrying out a campaign of violence against ICE agents and other officials charged with enforcing federal law. In Chicago, anarchists have surveilled at least 4 local ICE facilities and posted diagrams of the buildings online, meaning nothing but bad, accompanied by photos of specific ICE agents that they're targeting, one in particular who's a top person and a great patriot. In July, approximately a dozen Antifa-aligned militants stormed the ICE facility in Texas and then lured officers out of the building before firing dozens of rounds at police. They were crazy, frankly, shooting one Texas officer in the neck. And in Portland, Oregon, Antifa thugs have repeatedly attacked our officers and laid siege to federal property in an attempt to violently stop the execution of federal law. Everything we're doing is very lawful. What they're doing is not lawful.
All right. Yeah, I believe that was already played, but that's all right. So moving on to the next one, perhaps. Let's see. Under the last administration, Department of Justice targeted faithful Catholics, Christians, patriotic parents as domestic extremists. I believe we already did that too. See, that's the problem. That's why I shouldn't have just started playing from the beginning, because now I don't know
Under the
which
last
ones I played and which ones I
administration, the
haven't.
Department of Justice targeted faithful Catholics, Christians, and patriotic parents as domestic extremists. They said, oh, they're extreme.
Under Biden,
Because they believe
ironically.
in God. They're extreme
Isn't he
because
supposed to
they
be a
go
practicing Catholic?
church, or
Yeah, okay.
evangelicals everybody was under the gun. Unless you were a really bad, sick person, then they left you alone. Under the Trump administration, we're going after Antifa criminals, and all who fund and support their campaigns are in serious trouble. And we have a lot of records already, a lot of surprises, a lot of bad surprises. It's people that you would never think.
All right, let's go. And from Homeland Security, it is a quote, Secretary Kristi Noem, President Trump and Secretary Noem will never surrender America to criminal illegal aliens and the Antifa domestic terrorists.
Let's not make any mistake. These individuals do not just want to threaten our law enforcement officers, threaten our journalists, and the citizens of this country. They want to kill them. Their agenda is to destroy the American
100%.
people and our way of life.
Yes,
and this
they do.
president is standing in their way. He is stopping them from bringing their death and their destruction to the individual citizens in this country that just want to raise their kids and their grandkids in peace and in safety. Let's not.
Yeah, because right now the government, the federal government, looks a lot weaker than I ever thought that they were, as far as enforcement goes, because they're guarding the building, but still these quote unquote protesters or rioters, far left wing extremists, they surround the building. And yeah, so if somebody throws something at a federal agent, if they're able to grab them, they will. However, there's not a whole lot being done. They've been obstructing them like crazy, and it comes with an 8-year prison sentence, and they're not grabbing these people that are standing in the way of the vehicles that are trying to get out of the exit of the ICE facilities. They're just not doing much, and it's been really surprising to me that they haven't just been rounding up just dozens at a time and just arresting all of them. So, not sure. We'll see. Anyway, independent journalist Brandy Kruse, quote, some of us have been covering Antifa for 15 years and never had anyone in a position of authority even acknowledge their existence. Yeah, President Biden, when he was president, famously, he said, no, Antifa's just an idea. It's just an idea.
Some of us have been covering Antifa
Look, man, they're protected completely by Democrats, and everybody fucking knows it.
for 15 years and have never had anyone in a position of authority even acknowledge their existence. And I'll also tell you that I think that had you not done, the single most powerful thing you've done to deal with this scourge has been acknowledging that Antifa is a real thing. I genuinely believe there would be people at these tables who would be dead today and would have been killed in Portland had you not called them a terror organization and said we're going to bring the full weight of the federal government to bear. Some of us have been covering Antifa for 15 years.
All right. That's wild, man. And Katie Davenport, and it's a quote. Just play it here.
I'm an investigative journalist from Seattle. I work for the Post Millennial alongside Andy No and Jack Posobiec. I have been infiltrating Antifa cells in Seattle and Portland for the past decade. I know their inner workings, and Antifa uses extreme political violence to crush the civil rights of their political enemies and believes that violence is justified by any means necessary. But today, I want to focus on what is happening in Portland at the ICE facility. I've been covering this for the past 4 months, and this is a call out to corporate media who has completely ignored this story or has
and they will continue
falsely reported on it. This is nothing short other than a sustained attack on the United States, which is being supported by Democratic elected officials. The Portland Police Bureau has completely abandoned several blocks outside the ICE facility, giving away their jurisdiction to a terrorist group who has spent the past 4 months harassing, assaulting, and intimidating anyone they perceive to be against their cause. Not only have federal agents been relentlessly assaulted for more than 100 consecutive days, black-clad anarchist militants concealing their identities behind black facial coverings have been assaulting reporters just for trying to cover their crimes. Today, I am sitting here with a black eye and a concussion after being violently hit in the face with a metal pole while reporting outside the ICE facility just this past week. After the attack, I immediately went to three Portland police officers who refused to detain the suspect. I took the time to chase down the suspect in the streets, had her held for 35 minutes. I was waiting for Portland police to come, and they never came.
No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. Like, well, we really can't identify her. Well, the police didn't observe the incident taking place. All right, so breaking 911. Let's see. Brainy Cruz, living proof that you can recover from TDS. Oh, yeah, that's right. Check this out.
I'm going to tell it to you anyway, because it's relevant to what we're talking about. I'm living proof that you can recover from TDS. I had strong Trump derangement syndrome for probably 8 years.
Wow.
This is one of the reasons I recovered from it. And by the way, it's much better to not have TDS. I'm happier, I'm healthier, more successful. I even think I got a little more attractive after I got rid of my Trump derangement syndrome. Yes.
Yep, Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah, it's they're psychotic. They're absolutely psychotic. That completely it could go without saying.